Hey guys, today we've got a video in our A and Q series where we're answering questions, and hopefully that leads to more questions, and those questions lead to more answers, and that's just how we're going to make progress. Today's question is really interesting to me. Who wrote the Bible? Now, the simplest answer to that is, a lot of people. Followers of God throughout the ages encountered him in unique ways. And from those interactions, they recorded histories, they composed letters, penned poems, imparted wisdom. Now, these people included what we would call Old Testament figures, like Moses or King David, or prophets like Jeremiah and Isaiah. And then you get to leaders in the early church, which really began to write in what we would call the New or the Newer Testament. And so those are people like Paul or Peter or John or James or Luke, not to mention many unnamed authors and compilers who preserved all of these oral traditions, and they put these texts together. This literature, which was composed over thousands of years in different historical and cultural contexts, makes up our 66 books in the Old and New Testaments. Now, it was originally written primarily in Hebrew and Greek. So you've got Hebrew, which is the what we would call the Old or the Older Testament, and the Greek is for the New Testament. And then you've got smaller bits of the Aramaic language in there. But these writers write from Africa, they write from Europe, they write from Asia, so it's a multicultural and global book in that regard. And still, one of the core confessions of the Christian faith is that ultimately the answer to our question is that God was behind the composition of Scripture. Now, this apostle named Paul makes this point in one of his letters, and he calls the whole of the Bible, or the whole of Scripture is the way he puts it, is God-breathed. Now that sounds mysterious, and it is, but that phrase in the Greek, here's a fancy Greek word for you, theopneustos, and it can be translated inspired by God. That means that in a way it's difficult to describe. It was so incredibly personal. But God gave the words of Scripture to us through these writers that he inspired. Now, I'm not saying that they went into some sort of a catatonic state and started automatically writing these things. No, rather it was God working through their personality, through their experience, through their education. God's working through their observations in this real world where they were living. And he's empowering them and enabling them and inspiring them to write down an absolutely trustworthy account. These words are written with the phrases and the idioms and the examples that would have made sense to that original audience. But the truths, they transcend time and culture. We really do believe that God speaks to us through this book. Now, of course, this claim begs other questions, like what does it mean for the Bible to be true? Let's just say this out loud. For many, it's hard to believe that there is such a thing like objective truth. We should probably come back to that. Or to say that the Bible is true because it claims to be true, that's a little bit of a circular argument, don't you think? See, I think we need to get to some of the evidence. Is there real evidence to examine that supports that this book is special? How do we get to those particular books? How do we read this book responsibly? All of these are questions that we're going to tackle in later videos, trusting that the same God who inspired Scripture will now meet us as we open the pages of this Bible. I hope this was helpful. I know there are a lot more questions, so if this sparked some of those questions, please leave us a note in the comment section. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel because we want to keep letting you know about new videos when they come out. Until we see you next time, thanks for watching.